Abiotic Factor, the sci-fi survival game you didn't know you needed. Picture this. You're standing in a massive underground lab, flashing alarms, creatures from another dimension bursting through portals, robots malfunctioning in the dark. And what's your weapon? Not a gun, not a sword, but a frying pan. This is Abiotic Factor, a survival game where chaos meets science, and your brain is your biggest weapon. Today, we're breaking down what makes Abiotic Factor so different from every other survival game you played. Not just another chop wood, build hut, eat berries loop. This one's weird. Weird in the best possible way. What is Abiotic Factor? Abiotic Factor is a first-person sci-fi survival game. It's developed by Deep Field Games, published by PlayStack, and right now it's in early access on Steam. You play as a scientist, not a soldier, not a mercenary, not some chosen one, just a stressed researcher, trapped in the Gateway Science Facility after a catastrophic containment breach. Your job? Survive, explore the massive lab, loot everything that isn't nailed down, build a base, and somehow escape while fending off creatures, anomalies, and security systems that now want you dead. On paper, it sounds like a standard survival game, but in practice, it's anything but. Why is it different? Let's be honest. The survival genre is overflowing. Hundreds of games promise crafting, building, fighting hunger, and braving the wilderness. Abiotic Factor flips that formula on its head. Instead of being stranded in a forest, you're stuck in a 90s-style underground lab. Instead of tribal weapons and spears, you're inventing gadgets from office supplies and broken tech. Instead of playing the hero with a six-pack, you're a clumsy scientist in glasses, running for your life with a mop. It's survival, sure, but survival wrapped in parody, sci-fi nostalgia, and chaotic humor. The Half-Life but sandbox vibe. One of the first things people notice. The art style and atmosphere scream Half-Life. Low-fidelity textures, dim corridors, retro lighting. It feels like you just stepped into a lost 90s shooter. But here's the twist. Where Half-Life was linear, Abiotic Factor is sandbox survival. No Gordon Freeman, no scripted campaign. Just you and your friends try and make sense of a broken facility full of hazards. The developers even lean into this joke. They've said it themselves. This is what happens when the nameless lab NPCs finally get their own game. And it works. The nostalgia keeps you hooked. The sandbox chaos keeps you laughing. Unique mechanics. Now, let's dig into what you actually do. Abiotic Factor has all the usual survival systems. Hunger, thirst, health, fatigue. But everything is twisted through the lens of you're a scientist, not a warrior. You don't just unlock recipes by default. You actually discover them through a brain-style minigame. Drag items into the right slots. Get it wrong? Try again. Get it right? Recipe unlocked forever. It's less Minecraft crafting grid and more mad scientist brainstorming session. Weapons start dumb. Pipes, kitchen knives, plastic nets. But scale into ridiculousness. Laser tools, tasers, contraptions that feel like they should explode in your hands. It's silly, but it works. Everything you do levels up your character. Cook more, unlock better recipes. Use blades often, eventually you'll learn to throw them. Run too much, you'll get faster. Even bodily needs matter. Yes, bathroom breaks are a real mechanic. Ignore it, and your character has an accident. It's gross, but it's funny. And it adds to the immersion of being a regular human, not a superhero. The joy of chaos co-op. Abiotic Factor can be played solo, but honestly, it's built for co-op with up to 6 players. That's where the game shines, because survival becomes comedy. One friend hoards all the food. Another insists on turning the server room into a luxury base. Someone else keeps dying in portal dimensions. And then there's always that one guy who builds the only toilet in base and then locks it off as a prank. Teamwork is technically possible, but betrayal and chaos, that's where the real memories are made. So how does Abiotic Factor stack up against its peers? Compared to the forest. Less horror realism, more absurd humor. You're not carving skull masks, you're rigging vending machines as barricades. Compared to Project Zomboid. Similar depth in stats and skills. But Abiotic Factor adds sci-fi tech and co-op chaos instead of grim realism. Compared to Valheim, both games thrive in co-op, but Valheim feels epic. Abiotic Factor feels ridiculous. In Valheim, you're slaying gods. Here, you're slapping aliens with frying pan. And that contrast is the point. Abiotic Factor doesn't want to be serious. It wants to be memorable. So, is Abiotic Factor just a quirky gimmick? Or is it secretly one of the most fun survival games you'll ever play? Enemies and threats. Every survival game needs monsters. Abiotic Factor takes that and says, let's go wild. You'll face aliens straight out of a fever dream, robotic security units that don't care who they shoot, and an arcane military sect known as the Order. Basically, everyone wants you dead. The best part? They're not super smart. Enemy AI is basic, but the variety is massive. One moment you're kiting a robot down a hallway, the next you're swarmed by flying creatures. Then boom, a boss fight against something that looks like it belongs in a VHS horror movie. It's chaotic, and the game leans into that chaos. The lab isn't everything. Yes, the Gateway Science Facility is huge, but that's not all you'll explore. Abiotic Factor uses portals to throw you into other worlds. Sometimes terrifying, sometimes hilarious, always unexpected. One portal dumps you into a ruined city, crawling with giant monsters. Another sends you into a surreal landscape that feels like a dream sequence. There's even a bizarre train dimension. It's pure sci-fi pulp. Think, Half-Life meets Stargate with sandbox rules. Every new biome introduces different resources, challenges, and sometimes shortcuts. Find the right path, and you'll unlock elevators, ramps, or even teleporters back to base. Exploration feels rewarding, not because of loot alone, but because every new area tells you a little more about the broken universe you're trapped in. Storytelling through the world. This isn't a game with long cutscenes. It doesn't sit you down and explain everything. Instead, you uncover the story like a detective, log into computers, read emails left open by employees, hack into terminals for blueprints, even overhear NPCs complaining about their jobs. The lore is pieced together in scraps, exactly like Dark Souls or Half-Life, and it fits the setting, because you're not the chosen one. You're just a scientist trying to survive, while uncovering how bad the disaster really is. Tone, horror meets comedy. What really sells Abiotic Factor is its balance of fear and humor. Yes, it can be scary. Wandering dark labs, hearing distant screams, low lights flickering. Then suddenly, the vending machine eats your last dollar. It's the constant swing between tension and absurdity. One minute you're panicking because a robot is chasing you. The next you're laughing because your friend dies while holding a frying pan like Excalibur. The developers know exactly what they're doing. It's not parody for parody's sake. It's survival with a wink, community reaction. So how has the world responded? Surprisingly well. On Steam, Abiotic Factor sits at overwhelmingly positive. Players praise its depth, its co-op chaos, and its unique vibe. Reddit and Discord are full of base designs, crafting discoveries, and weird roleplay stories. YouTube creators highlight the mix of tension and comedy, calling it memorable and refreshing. Even critics admit it's one of the best early access launches in years. A rare thing in survival gaming. Comparisons that matter. So where does Abiotic Factor stand compared to the giants? The forest. Scary, yes, but Abiotic Factor adds humor and creativity that the forest doesn't. Project Zomboid. Zomboid nails realism. Abiotic Factor nails chaos. It's science instead of spreadsheets. Valheim. Both are better with friends. Valheim makes you feel heroic. Abiotic Factor makes you feel ridiculous. And somehow, that's just as addictive. It's not competing directly. It's carving its own lane. A lane for players who love survival, but want something stranger. Proof of staying power. Here's the big question. Is this just another quirky early access fad? Or does it have staying power? From what we've seen, the systems are deep. Crafting isn't shallow. Base building, while clunky is layered. Progression is tied to your actions. And the devs? They've been responsive, updating often, and even poking fun at themselves. Abiotic Factor feels like a game built for stories. The kind you tell your friends after a ridiculous co-op session. And those are the games that stick. So, is Abiotic Factor the next big survival hit? Or is it destined to be a weird cult classic? Only time will tell. But right now, it's one of the most original, chaotic, and unexpectedly fun survival games you can play. If you've tried it, drop your funniest in-game story in the comments. I'll pin the one that makes me laugh the hardest. And if you're just discovering it today, maybe it's time to grab a lab coat, pick up a frying pan, and see how long you can survive. Because remember, in Abiotic Factor, you're not Gordon Freeman. You're the scientist who usually dies in the background. And now, you're the star of the disaster.